Hi everyone in Algebra 2B. This is going to be your new material for lesson 103. Just a reminder that your test is going to be next week on Tuesday and on Thursday. Please make sure you're checking RenWeb to see what that test is going to be over and when that's going to take place and how it's going to take place. So lesson 103 is on advanced polynomials division, and the note that they give us is that you can divide polynomials that have more than one variable by using the same method that we use when only one variable is present. So we're going to be dividing these two variables today using our long division. Don't forget that when you're dividing that you still need to input the missing variables. So for this one, we're going to have x plus y on the outside. And on the inside, I have x to the third, but then I'm going to have 0, x to the second, and then I'm going to have 0x, and then 0, and then at the end, you can plug in your y cubed. Okay, so don't forget all of your variables there. So now I'm going to start. I'm going to divide x squared, or x cubed by x, and that's going to give me x squared. Now when I multiply this through, I'm going to have x squared times x, which would be x cubed, and then x squared times y, which is going to be x squared y. But remember that you're subtracting that, so these are both going to become negative. My x cubes are going to cancel, and when I subtract this, this is just going to be negative x squared y. And I'm going to carry down the 0x. Now, when I divide negative x squared y by x, that lowers the power by 1. So it would be x to the 1, and the y would just be there. So now you're going to multiply this times x, so that would be negative x squared y. And when you multiply negative xy times y, it would be negative xy squared. But remember, you're subtracting, so both these signs are going to change to positive. It will cancel out your x squared y. And when you add this together, it's just going to be xy squared. So dividing again, you divide x y squared by x, and that would just be y squared. You're going to multiply y squared times x, which would be xy squared. I forgot to carry down the 0. Y squared times y would be plus y cubed. Remember, you're changing the sign though, so this is going to become negative. This becomes negative as well. So the xy squareds are going to cancel. 0 minus y cubed would be negative y cubed. Oops. I should have done it from here, sorry. So this would be, my bad. This would be y cubed and then negative y cubed. So y cubed minus y cubed would just be 0. So your answer is going to be x squared minus xy plus y squared. So the only thing you don't need is you don't need that lowest power of x, which would be 0. So you stop here, and then you would plug in your y cubed. So I messed up, sorry. Let's do another one to make sure we can do it correctly. So for number 103.2, I'm gonna divide x minus y, which is gonna be my outside. The inside is gonna be, so my highest power is going to be x cubed, then I'm going to have 0x squared, then I'm going to have 0x, and then I'm going to have negative y cubed. So all the powers of x, and then I plug in my y at the end. So x divided by x cubed, that would give me x squared. When I multiply that back through, I get x cubed. X squared times negative y squared would be negative x squared y. Remember that you are subtracting, so I'm flipping my sign from negative to positive to negative and negative to positive. The x cubes will cancel, and then I'm adding those together. That would just be x squared y. Bring down the 0x. Now I have x squared y divided by x lowers the power by 1, which would just be xy. Now multiply x times xy would be x squared y. Xy times negative y would be negative xy squared. But again, you're subtracting, so that changes the signs from positive to negative and negative to positive. These cancel. This would just become xy squared, and then you're going to carry down your negative y cubed. Now lower your power by 1. So xy squared divided by x would just be y squared. So y squared times x would be xy squared. Y squared times negative y would be negative y cubed. But again, you're subtracting. So this would change to negative, this would change to positive. And not only is the xy squared going to cancel, but also the y cubed cancels. So your answer is going to be x squared plus xy plus y squared. And that would be your result for 103.2. Okay, so now pay attention. These are the problems that I would like you to pause the video and attempt numbers 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then I will be going over them with you after you have attempted them. So attempt them, and then I'll go over, unpause the video and go through them with me. So number 1, for lesson 103, we have a 60% markup of a purchase price was necessary to pay the rent, utilities, and the workers. Still make a small profit. If an item sold for $14.24, what did the storekeeper pay for it? So we're going to refer back to our notes here for lesson 101. It says the selling price is equal to the purchase price plus the markup. So for number 1, it's the selling price equals the purchase price plus the markup. And for our case, we have the markup is 60% of the purchase price. So purchase price, 60% would be 0.6 of the purchase price. I know what my selling price is. It's $1,424. When I add the 1 pp and the 0.6 pp, I would have 1.6 pp. So when I divide both sides by 1.6, I would get 1424 divided by 1.6 gives me a purchase price of $890. And that would be your result for number 1. Now moving forward, we're going to look at number 6. So if you haven't attempted it, please make sure you do that before you press play. So this would be 3x plus 2y on the outside. On the inside, I'm going to have my 27x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x plus 8y cubed. Now, if I divide 27x cubed by 3x, I'm going to get 9x squared. 9x squared times 3x would be 27x cubed. 9x squared times 2 would be 18x squared y. Both of those are going to change to negative, and my 27x cubed would cancel. I would be left with negative 18x squared y plus 0x. Now divide this by x, lowers this power of x by 1, so that would be, and 18 divided by 3 is 6, so it would be negative 6xy. When I multiply that back out, it would be negative 18x squared y. Negative 6xy times 2y would be negative 12xy. Both of those, we're going to change the sign to positive. So this would cancel. 0 plus 12 would be 12xy. carry down our 8y cubed. Now divide 12xy by 3x. So 12 divided by 3 would be 4. Lower the power of x by 1, so that would just be 4y. So now multiply 4y times 3x would be 12xy. Multiply 4y times 2y would be 8y cubed. Both of those positives are going to change to negative. So you're going to see that the 12xy cancels as well as the 8y cubed cancels. So your answer is going to be 9x squared. Oops, sorry, I want to rewrite that. 9x squared minus 6xy plus 4y. And that would be your result for number 6. Now for number 7, it's a little tricky. So we're solving for x and y, but we're also solving for the perimeter. So what you need to remember is that sides that are tangent to each other of a circle are equal to each other. So that means this side is going to be equal to this side, which makes it x is equal to x. The other thing we get are these two lines are tangent to each other. So that means y plus 3 is going to be equal to 15. And these two lines here are tangent to each other, which means that y plus 8 is going to be equal to x plus 15. So I have to solve for what x and what y are equal to. The first thing would be to solve for what y is equal to by subtracting 3. So I'm going to get y is equal to 12. That's one of my answers. Once I know that, I'm going to plug it into this side. So that would be 12 plus 8 equals x plus 15. And 12 plus 8 is going to be 20 equals x plus 15. So when I move the 15 to the other side, I'm going to get x is equal to 5. But you're not done yet because they ask you also for what the perimeter of the triangle is. So perimeter, remember, is just all the sides added up. So this would be x plus x, well, x plus x, plus y plus 3, plus 15, plus x plus 15, plus y plus 8. So I'm just going to plug in all my variables that I know. I know what x is equal to and y, and then use my calculator. So x is 5, so 5 plus 5. Y is 12 plus 3. X again is 5 plus 15 plus y plus 8. So now using your calculator, you can just add all those together. So 5 plus 5 plus 12 plus 3 plus 15 plus 5 plus 15 plus 12 plus 8, it gives me 80. And that's your result for number 7. And then the last two, or actually 3 that I wanted to do with you were number 8, 9, and 10. And those are from pretty previous lessons that we've just gone through. So number 8 is going to be find AB of 2 where A of x is equal to x minus 5 where the domain is reals, and B of x is x squared plus 4 where the domain is negative integers. Remember that when you see something like this, you're going to multiply those two equations together. You have to also make sure that the x that they're asking you to solve for fits within the domain of the other two. So I have AB of 2, meaning that I'm going to multiply the A equation, which is x minus 5, times the B equation, which is x squared plus 4. When I multiply this out, x times x squared would give me x cubed. X times 4 would be 4x. Then I have minus 5x squared, and then negative 5 times 4 would be negative 20. Now when I evaluate that, it's going to be x cubed plus, well, 4x minus 5x squared minus 20. I should have flipped that, but I didn't. And we're trying to evaluate this equation for 2, but I need to make sure that that fits within the domain of the individual functions. So does 2 fit within the reals? Yes, it does. But is 2 a negative integer? No, it's not. It's not a negative integer. 2 is a positive integer. So we can't actually find this answer. So my answer is either going to be the null set, or you can write the empty set. And that's your answer for number 8. Now for number 9 and number 10, remember, we're just going to recall what our equation needs to look like. It needs to look like this. So we're going to complete the square to getting an equation that looks like this. The positive or negative is going to tell us if it opens up or down. This is going to tell me what the axis of symmetry is by setting it equal to 0. And this is going to be my vertex plus k. This chart right here tells me how I'm going to graph it. So I need to get it into that form before I can actually graph it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the x's in parentheses, giving me x squared plus 4x, leaving the 6 on the outside. Now when I complete the square, I'm going to take half of 4, and half of 4 would be x plus 2 squared. When I square that, I get plus 4. Now remember, whatever I do on the inside of the parentheses, I have to do the opposite on the outside. So the opposite of adding 4 would be subtracting 4. Now because there's no plus or minus sign on the outside, I assume it's positive. So I know that this parabola is going to open up. The x plus 2 gives me the axis of symmetry by setting it equal to 0. So that means x is going to be equal to negative 2. And this plus 2 is going to be your vertex. So if the absolute value is at, or if the axis of symmetry is at negative 2, from the origin, I'm going to go over 2, and I'm going to put in a dotted line. And then from there, the vertex is up 2, so I'm going to count up 2. Now here's where this chart comes in. So from this chart, it tells me to go over 1 on the x-axis, then up 1 on the y-axis, and in both directions. And then I'm going to go over 2 on the x-axis, and then up 4. 1, 2, 3. And that would be on both sides, which means that your parabola should look like this. Okay, and we're going to use that same thing to look at number 10. So for number 10, the first thing that you're going to do is put all the x's in parentheses. Leaving the 6 on the outside. You can't complete the square when there's a negative attached to the x squared, so you're going to factor that out. And you do factor it out of both terms. This would turn into positive x squared. This would turn into negative 4x. Now I have to complete the square. So half of negative 4 is going to be negative 2. And when I square that, I get plus 4. Remember that you do the opposite to the outside, but this 4 is actually a negative 4 because of the factored out minus sign. So the opposite of subtracting 4 would be to add 4 on the outside. This negative sign tells me that my parabola is going to open down like this. The x minus 2 is my axis of symmetry, so I'm going to set that equal to 0, and that gives me x is equal to positive 2. And this is going to be my vertex. So on my chart, at positive 2 on the x-axis, I'm going to put in a dotted line. Then at negative 2, so down 2, I'm going to put my vertex. Now from there, I'm going to use that same chart that I used before, which is right here. On the x-axis, you're going to go over 1, down 1. And over 1, down 1. And then we're going to go over 2, 1, 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's all going from your vertex. 1, 2, and then down 4. And then you're going to connect your dots. And that concludes all the problems that we're going to go through for lesson 103. I hope you guys all have a great weekend, and remember to post all your questions for 103A in the comments of this video by 9 a.m. on Monday. And also don't forget to check RunWeb for information on your test. Bye.